This is the Power of Osmosis podcast, powered by the Vidwheel Creator Network. This is the Power of Osmosis video podcast powered by Vidwheel Creator Network. My name is John Osberg, affectionately known as Johnny Osmosis. I'm joined today all the way from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, my LinkedIn legend brother, Andrew Metz. Andrew, welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you very much, Johnny Oz. It's a pleasure. It's awesome. It's cool. We're actually doing something. We've had a couple conversations, so it's nice to formalize something for the rest of the world.
It is. And on that note, we have so many synergies, so many similarities. I know I'm excited to hear more from you on your story and then to unpack kind of the synergies between our stories. But, I know you mentioned when we first connected through LinkedIn, it's such a common theme for me and my posts as well as yours, the power of it. But I remember you saying we don't really have a lot of overlap. So this will be cool to introduce much of my network, which is, 5 figures plus in number, and same for yours. To see the great things you're doing, man. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I think it's exciting to, the expansion of like-minded people. Maybe 10 years ago, I could find some of those in my marketplace. And now that's expanded, not only nationally. I found someone through LinkedIn, or they found me. They saw a talk I did. And last night it's called the Power Mba. It's like kind of an alt MBA program. I did it last night at 6:30 p.m. And there's people that were on the webinar from Dubai, Madrid, India. It was crazy. So like literally there was a global presence, and people now are connecting with me on LinkedIn and following my content already. It's just it's an unbelievable, awesome, powerful thing.
It really is. It's funny that you were on the Power MBA when this is the Power of Osmosis. Pretty funny there, but yeah. I'm like nonstop looking for anything that I can pull on that's similar. It's funny. I gotta turn that off, but it's funny you say that, man. 700 million users and growing every single day on LinkedIn. I've been on the platform. So again, as similar as our stories are, but there are some actually non-similarities with LinkedIn and how, I've been on it since I was a youth. My dad got me on it. And so again, we're getting tangential, but remember you telling me that it wasn't until maybe some years ago that you started really getting intense with that. But you know what? Let's pack that to the side for a second. Let's hear more. Let's introduce you, Andrew Metz out of Milwaukee. Let's hear from you, brother.
People that know your audience, I think what makes sense to maybe kick off my story is, I think it was between New Year's and Christmas was your run. And I saw it was around New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. And your post said, you talked about running a marathon. You talked about being 1 year dry. And I literally got chills because that was the journey I just completed 3 months earlier. And, I think Buffalo, New York, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin have a lot of similarities, kind of blue collar, hardworking. We like our sports teams because it's cold and there's nothing else to do. And we like to drink. Yeah. We like to drink. We like to party. We like to eat bad. It's kind of culturally who we are. And to kind of give your audience a taste of what my life is, I think I was 35 and woke up one day and I had a lot of money. I had a great job, a great career, an awesome wife who I've been with for 13 years and 3 kids. And really there's a lot, there was still a lot of gratitude then, but I think I also asked myself, like, this is kind of what you become, which is the overweight Midwestern dad who drinks every night and, plays fantasy football and stuff. And it's cool. It's fine to have hobbies, but, really asking myself, for someone that has been blessed with so many things or skill sets or connections, ago, is this kind of what you're making of this time on earth? Is kind of, as heavy as that sounds, but I think we all need to ask ourselves, like, is this all we're going to end up being? And, it started with running, actually. So it was about a year before I stopped drinking. I ran in the corporate 5K, very corporate 5K kind of a thing. And I used to be, people laugh when they hear this because I'm short, but I was actually voted best athlete of my senior class, which was 360 kids. So it wasn't like a small school.
Wow.
And, but I was fast. I ran track and played football and basketball and stuff. And anyways, I've always thought of myself as an athlete, and I run this 5K at age 34 or whatever. And I mean, I was like on the back half of the 3 mile race. Like I was like on the lower end of the pack finishing, and I found myself actually walking part of it and like getting a side ache. And man, it was like super humbling and I'd say embarrassing. And I'm like,
Mm.
these aren't even athletes I'm competing against. These are just other corporate people, right? Like me. And literally the day after that, I started running again, and I was
Wow.
I was pissed. I mean, I felt like, you just got to take a snapshot of your life every once in a while and go, is like, is this would my 18-year-old self been disappointed in who I've become, kind of a thing. And
Wow.
yeah, there's a physical aspect, and this isn't like a weight thing or like I was fat or whatever. It was just like the lack of discipline specific to my physical body, but it played into other areas. And
Mm.
I started running in the morning. I remember thinking, I'm gonna win the Zywave. That's my company. I'm gonna win the 5K next year. Um, and I just started running, and I remember clear as day coming back from my house. I left at 6 in the morning, and I ran 6 miles. It was the longest I ran in my life. And I was in my driveway, and my son was peeking out the window. He was like 3 or 4 years old then. And I remember screaming like an animal because I was kind of being goofy with my kid, but I was like, "Oh!" And my wife got mad because I almost woke the baby. And I was like, I was just feeling so high. Like I felt,
Wow.
and what it was in retrospect was I felt empowered. I felt like I was controlling my life and my situation. And after I ran
Oh,
6 miles, I ran seven, I ran eight. I ran a half marathon. And then about 6 months later, I decided, the next thing to work on was the drinking. And there's a lot of, when I tell people I stopped drinking, they're like, "Oh my God, were you an alcoholic? Did you get a DUI? Did your wife, threaten to divorce you?" And sometimes it doesn't need to be fully rock bottom. We've talked about this, but it's also that it was also it was something I don't think I could control. I remember I have distinct memories of pulling into my garage after work and being like, "You're not going to drink beer tonight." And then like an hour later, you're finishing your second beer and you're like, "Shoot, like maybe I don't
mm.
quite have a handle." And though I wasn't like a huge binge drinker, I had like a high frequency. It was a habitual thing. I came
High
home.
frequency.
Yeah, it was just like 2 or 3 at night. But I'll tell you, that compounds, right? That 2
It
or
adds
3 at
up.
night means like 60 to 70 a month, right? And I remember kind of thinking like, is it too late? I'm 35 at the time, who cares? Doesn't matter. And then I remember just having this thought of, what about if I stopped today? If I was 70, how much how much better shape would I be in? Like I'm
Oh,
only
man.
halfway to 70, and I look at my parents who are in their 70s and go, man, I could still a lot. There's still half the game left just to get to there, and maybe I'll live till 100. And
Mm.
I read a book. It's called How to Control Your Alcohol. David Carr. No, David Carr's the quarterback. Alan Carr. Alan Carr. He wrote a book
Cool.
about tobacco in the 70s or 80s, and he also wrote one about drinking. I read it in 3 days,
Wow.
and the last chapter in the book is to pour yourself one last drink. And someone that kind of romanticized alcohol and Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Brewers and Green Bay Packers, and beer is everything. And it was a big part of my life. I have pictures of it. I poured my last drink, and I told my kids, it was a Sunday afternoon, and I remember just saying, "Hey, you guys see me drink a lot. Drinking in moderation is okay. I'm not. I haven't like condemned alcohol in my house by any means, but I just
Sure.
said, this is something that dad's making a decision to live a healthier lifestyle." And I go, "This is the last time you'll see me drink." And I took 2 slugs of vodka. And I gotta tell you, man, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. It was it was one of 2 times in my life, in my kids life, that they see me cry. And I just felt,
Wow.
I told my wife's like, "Are you okay?" And I just said, I have a tremendous weight off my shoulders. I really did. It felt like, one of the things with alcohol and habitual kind of things, y- y- there's decisions that you make. And I think a lot of people come to me and they're like, "Your story is incredible. I've stopped drinking during the week." And that's cool. And I support wherever I meet people where they
Sure.
are, and I don't judge. And for me, it's been easier to just pull the band-aid and kind of make the decision. Like there is no decision to make, I guess. I've already pre-made the decision. And here I am, 15 months dry. I don't know, I've lost probably
Oh,
30 pounds. I ran a full marathon the same week that I went 1 year dry, just like
let's
you.
go.
My two boys crossed the finish line with me.
Oh my God.
And it was just, I don't know, man. It like what people don't realize is that you write your own story, and like that
Mm,
sounds kind of cheesy and sappy, but like you do. Like anyone listening right now, you could change something tomorrow. You don't need anyone's permission. Most of the reasons why you think you can are excuses. Yeah, there's circumstantial things, and I'm not, I once again, I don't judge people, but I've also kind of just taken the game myself and go, I've had thoughts recently, you know we had some corporate things, and people kind of came in. We did some leadership things in person, and people were kind of hung over the next day, or people came
mm.
back from the Packer game, the NFC Championship, and they were hung over. And I just thought in my head, I don't judge them. I've been that guy, but I feel like I'm playing a different game. I really
Chess,
do.
when they're playing checkers, man. That's what we said on the call a couple of weeks ago.
Exactly. And I changed the rules. I changed the rules so that it's the deck's in my favor. And now what that's all resulted in, and I'm kind of rambling here, but what it's resulted
Good.
in, um the side hustle of LinkedIn content. So I started posting LinkedIn content a week after I went dry.
Yeah.
And I was on LinkedIn for 13 years before I made a post, or really made any significant posts.
Wow.
And in a 1 year period, I went from 1,200 connections to 10,000 connections, and you know, conversations like this, but tons of podcasts, speaking opportunities. I mean, things have just emerged, and the cool thing for me is, because I have a day job and I consider myself a practitioner, like I'll be a sales leader in 45 minutes from now, and that's awesome. And I love kind of having my cake and eating it too. But like, I have no expectations on all this extracurricular stuff. It's all gravy. It's all fun. If nothing comes of it, then maybe I shared some ideas that people benefited from. But I
Mm.
don't expect anything. So it's like, even connecting with you is like, everything is icing on the cake, and that is gratitude. Like,
And
gratitude is,
no,
I just made a post where I said, like, not everything needs to be quid pro quo. Like, I'm not going to do you a favor so you do me a favor. I'm going to give out as many favors as I can, and I'll expect nothing. And sometimes really cool opportunities come. And by the way, nothing has been monetary. And that's not my driver. I've been really fortunate to make a lot of money. I live a debt-free lifestyle. There's just been things financially that I've been blessed with. And so it's like, that's never been on the tail. I just spoke to this Power MBA thing last night. I didn't even know if they were paying me. They didn't. They gave me free access for a year. I was like, awesome. Like, once again, if you don't expect anything, and happiness is expectations minus reality. And I
oh,
think about that all the time. It's like,
do
if
that
I'm
one
not,
more time, Andrew, for the listeners. One more time.
I think the technical equation is, happiness is reality minus your expectations. And when people are unhappy, they expect too much. You know, they take their family down to Florida and they complain that it was raining. And I would
God,
say, well, you got to spend time with your family in Florida. Or, you went out to dinner and the meal wasn't good. Well, you got to spend time with your wife, or whatever. Like,
the ability
and
to
that's
pay
great.
for the meal and get yourself there, right? And the health
Exactly.
to get all that stuff. It sounds
I
kind of
mean,
like you
there's
said,
a
cheesy, but it's
million.
real. Yeah. Yeah. Get some water. I
And
hear you clearing that throat, baby. Yeah. Here I am
and
with this 40-ounce thing that I preach to my
I,
clients. And like,
I,
I
I,
was trying to tell you, get a sip.
no, it's all good. I catch myself too, even sometimes, like with my kids and my temper, and I'm get upset. And it's like, I have kids. Some people, I know a lot of people close to me that spend a lot of time trying to have children, and a lot of heartache and finances, and made a lot of sacrifices. And so we can all do that. And you see that. You see people with disabilities, or people with really tough pasts and things like that. And I think to some degree too, I had a pretty normal childhood. My parents got divorced when I was 12 years old. I grew up in a blended family of six. And I actually feel really grateful for that. Like, I grew up in a really big family. I was kind of messy and weird. And, I had a stepbrother that I met at 11 years old, and I shared a bedroom with him and stuff like that. And it's all made me who I am. And I think I have great parents overall. And that was part of it too, is like, to be 35 and feel like I haven't accomplished what I want. I'm like, there's no one to blame but me. There's no excuses. There's no like going, oh man, I had X, Y, Z, and that's why. And the truth is, people that have had a lot of adversity usually that gives them some makeup or some DNA to be even better. So I think, some of that was like a guilt complex. But I just was talking to my wife 2 days ago as I turned 37 in a couple months, and I'm like, man, I'm almost 40. She goes, yeah, you're almost 40. That's crazy. And I said, I'm closer to 40 than I am to 30. And then I go, I feel totally at peace with that. And she goes, that's because you're happy with who you are. And I think that's true. Like people freak out about their age and these milestones because they think I haven't done enough, or I don't have enough money, or I haven't done career things or whatever. And I don't know. I feel like the journey is just beginning. I really do.
I love that, man, dude. This is it's just like pinch me moment stuff, and you mentioned about rambling. No, that was some of the most powerful insight, and also open, candid, vulnerable, real. I mentioned you on a Friday video. I put out a quick video, and I
Thank
said
you.
how you put out authentic, real, resonant material, and that's again where there's so much synergy between us, is that it's refreshing. And like you mentioned, I gave you chills. Well, you gave me probably 2 or 3 times during that little mention, that story outline of who you are, and or at least relevant to what you think, my audience, and I think that'll be very powerful for my audience. I love to key in on something.
Yeah.
I know we talked about Goggins, David Goggins. It seems like he comes up in my
Yep.
my content so often. But you mentioned about writing a story. Something that Goggins says is we're writing a book every day of our lives,
Yeah.
and a lot of times we don't want to read that book, right? It's a book every single day, right? And then that'll add up. Those are chapters, whatever, sub chapters and chapters, and then eventually, obviously, you have this book when you're in your 80s, 90s, whatever age you're fortunate enough to get to. So I'd love to hear more about that. How do you kind of, I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do you, get what is a day like for you, right? Like what does a morning look like for you? Things that could be useful for, the audience to hear, as someone who has completed 15 months of transformation, lost the weight, is running, isn't drinking, living the life of your dreams, and not having to worry about, where's it, what's in it for me. You can just give and give and give. So I love more about the book thing that really struck me.
Yeah, well, David Goggins' book, I mean, I think I heard him on Joe Rogan, like a lot of people did,
Mhm.
probably his first time he came around me. His book I've gifted out. I've gifted to all my leaders. So I manage a sales team of 24 people, and I have three managers that help me do that. But that seems to be the book that the last couple of years I've given out, and it just made a huge impact. I mean, that was part of my running too. It's like I remember when I started running and I ran 6 miles, and even the thought of running a marathon seemed insane. And then it's
Yep.
like you read this book, and the guys run 100 miles, 150 miles in the desert.
Deep.
You go, all right, we can figure this out, right? But um, when you talk about like kind of chapters of your book and stories, I think one of the things I got from David Goggins that I did think a lot about, it was kind of a weird, it almost would have sounded like narcissistic to me prior, but no one gets that from David Goggins. You get what you get. He's raw, unfiltered, and you really get the sense that the guy doesn't care at all what people think. And I think that's awesome. Um, is like he talks about like writing a story that he's proud of,
Yeah.
and I've certainly taken some of that. And by the way, all my content, everyone's content, it's usually like regurgitated from somewhere, but I think I have my own spin, take on it, or
Bruce Lee.
experiences,
Bruce
stories.
Lee.
What about Bruce Lee?
Oh, sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I just back and forth. It's take what's useful, discard what's not, and uniquely make it your own.
I
It's
love that.
exactly.
That's great. I have heard that, and I think like I'm always like I didn't create the idea of like manifesting ideas. I didn't create, the law of attraction. And I have my own experiences. And I think that's what's powerful is like being a good communicator means like what comes out of my mouth rests easy on your ears, or you like the way I say it, or you connect with me because maybe you're in sales, maybe you're a father, maybe you stopped drinking, maybe you're a runner, maybe none of those things, maybe you aspire to be one of those things, or maybe it reminds you of a friend that you used to know, or whatever. I don't know, but the point is you're trying to connect and just try to better society. But David Goggins talks about like being proud of himself, and
I love
I
that.
think that's something everyone could kind of understand, because we all have these deep dark moments and secrets. And I always talk about like when I used to travel for work, and I used to travel a lot, and I would always say like when you're in like I'll tell my salespeople like when you're at the Hilton Garden Inn in Des Moines, Iowa, and it's just you in that room, and your family's not there, and your friends aren't there, and there's not distractions, and you look in the mirror, like, do you like what you're about? Do you like
Mm.
who you are? Do you like who you are behind closed doors? Are you true? Are you fake? Are you phony? And like the only individuals can say that for themselves. And I think a lot about that. I think about that being a dad. The drinking, a big part of it was just being a parent and trying to lead by example. And once again, I'm like, people can drink and make different decisions. And I just think one of the things my wife told me after I stopped, this was like heart wrenching, but my 4-year-old at the time, maybe he was 5, he told my wife at one point, when I'm a dad, I want to drink beer at night when I get home. And that's kind of funny and it's kind of depressing, but it really
Wow.
hit me. And like, I didn't even know about that, but I sensed that I knew they were always watching. They're always observing,
We're
the way
sponges.
exactly, the way I behave, what I do, like the way I treat my wife, the way I take care of my daughter, the way I speak to other people. Do we hold doors for people? Do we say thank you to people? Like just kind of one-on-one stuff, but also, it helps you to make sure you're being a good person too. So yeah, I mean the chapter thing, the book thing, it's like I think the biggest thing is people get hung up in their past. Well, there's two things I'll say. Depression is being stuck in the past, something that went bad, and you're dwelling on that. Anxiety is being stuck in anticipating something that might be bad in the future. And being present is what everyone wants to be, right? It's just like, I'm right here, right now, in this conversation with you. We're learning things about each other, and that's awesome. And I think when it comes to chapters of your life or books, like you need to forgive yourself if you have guilt about something or felt like you messed up in the past or you didn't treat someone properly. Um, you could still start a better chapter right now. Or I feel bad that my kids saw me drink forever. Or whatever. Or I didn't take care of myself for a 5-year span. Or I mean, there's plenty of things that everyone could. I feel like I didn't really give back. I give back financially, but how am I giving of my talents out to the universe? And will I feel satisfied at 80 years old from the ages of 30 to 35? Or was I just kind of selfish sales guy and like trying to drive fancy cars and stuff like that? Like probably. But I might also look at that and go, man, from 35 on, I killed it in that area. Like I gave and mentored and did things for others. And that's awesome. And I don't know, part of that too is just the wisdom of brain development. I've learned a lot about, like, your
Mhm.
frontal cortex is more formed at age 30 than it is 21. And there's things like that where I kind of give myself a pass. But I also think because of experiences, probably because of financial stability, there's just my motivations are different. And I feel like I could be truly pure. Like there is no catch, there's no like, and I'm going to ask for this later. It just, I'm going to give out to the universe, and I'm going to expect nothing. And then any little thing, like if someone says, thanks for something, like someone hits me up on LinkedIn, I like your content, it's really cool. That's awesome. But man, I got to tell you, it's gotten way deeper. I had a guy 2 weeks ago go, I really love your content. I need to get sober. Like, what advice? Like we went for, he goes, I'm sorry this is so dramatic. I just feel like you're someone that can help. I'm like 0 to 100. You know what I mean? Like real life stuff. And I got chills when I read that, because I 2 years ago I would have been the guy that should have sent that note to someone else. So now it's that kind of like, there's a saying, it's like I can't give what I don't have. And like a real concrete thing is like, if I want to be super generous and I want to give a lot of money to causes or things, or just like, my wife and I have done this. Like we had a great server one night, we were out on a date, and I'm like, watch this. And I gave the guy $100 tip, and we slipped out of there. Like, I don't even want him to know. I don't even want him to see me again. You know what I'm saying? Like that was awesome. It was like, we were like, whoa, like in the car, like it was just fun for us. He was a super nice guy. He had a daughter. He was trying to figure it out. And it's like, I bet he was really happy to see that. And that's just money. But it's like, when I say I can't give what I don't have, if you use money as an example, if I stretch myself too thin and I got like a lease payment and I'm living beyond my means and I'm way in debt, like I can't do that. And that same parallel goes for like knowledge. That same parallel goes for like me
Mhm.
taking care of myself. Like I couldn't help this guy stop drinking. And I gave him the book. I was like, find support. I go, know that I'm cheering for you. I just gave him simple things. Like it was like 2 minutes of my time. He actually hit me up a week later. Hey, I already read the book. Thank you. It's been helpful. I'm like, we could talk anytime, but I can't do that if I'm in the same boat. Right. So it's like, you got to take care of yourself so you can go be helpful to others.
To draw off that, I love that point. And then I wanted to get some insights on you on these two themes that are coming out of this new year for us, 2021. But just to parallel to that, Lisa Nichols, motivator, inspirer, incredible gal, really financially focused for people of diversity. She has said time and time again, I was trying to carry everyone with me through the door and save them and help them, but I had to get myself through the door first, help myself first in order to be able to do that. So just to add to that, shout out to Lisa Nichols. Dude, she actually she accepted my LinkedIn.
That's awesome.
That's there's those, right? Like, what's that?
I said, that's exciting. I've had that too, like authors that I like their books or whatever. And I just hit them up like, I really like your book. I gave it to my sales team. And like Chris Voss, he wrote Don't Split the Difference. I don't know if you know that. He's a good negotiator. He like hit me back and he connected and he's like, I'm like, whoa. Like people are just people like you and I. And, if you like getting a compliment, so do they. And I think it just assumed that like people are always gushing, and he wrote back like, thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate that. And like accepted and he's liked some of my posts. And I'm like,
human too, right? He's human too. It's like you say, right? We're all on this journey together. That's pretty cool. And just to throw one more, former Bill and someone that I've been really, taking in is Eric Wood. And I'd highly recommend here on the show. It's a podcast he started some time ago, maybe within the last year. It's called What's Next with Eric Wood, Pro Bowl lineman. Big shout out to Eric Wood here. He's done so much good for the West New York, Buffalo, Niagara communities. He was just on with Ed Milet. And I don't know, I think we talked about Ed Milet. Yeah. He's one of the top podcasters in the world. Eric Wood was on his show, which is huge. And then vice versa, actually. Ed went on to Eric's show. And dude, I'm telling you, man, after we're done here, I will hit you up with those links because just fantastic. But the reason I say that is I reshared it, reposted and stuff. And same thing, Eric reached out and said, man, I really appreciate and you could tell it was him. It wasn't, it wasn't like some bot or something. Like it was him and he was grateful. And it's the same deal, right? It's like, that's pretty cool to have that interaction. And that's the power of all these platforms, namely LinkedIn. And, there's others, but I'll tell you, man, the one thing you said to me, and I'm on a tangent because I wanted to ask you about two themes, but just last thing that we can quickly unpack is, I remember you saying to me a couple of weeks ago, one of our conversations, LinkedIn's probably one of the only platforms you just don't see negativity. You just don't. And if there is it's filtered out. Kudos to the algorithm, go LinkedIn, whatever. But you just don't see it. It's people supporting each other. And that's something we need now more than ever in this new year that was supposed to be refreshed, reset. There's still much of the same. So just continually underscoring the importance of LinkedIn is huge.
Yeah, I think what I've come to the conclusion on is that because there's a little more to risk, people are a little more polite. And what I mean by that is
professionalism.
Go on my LinkedIn and you'll see I'm the regional vice president of sales at Zywave. And it's like I run a big team and there's some recourse to me being a jerk on there or maybe being too opinionated. And I think it's created an environment, especially kind of this like toxic political, there's all, you're on one end of the spectrum or other. And, apparently there's
I'm surprised you even know that, Andrew, someone who's gotten away 8 years later from non-mainstream news, which I cannot say enough about. It is something that people need to start thinking more about is staying away from news because news equals negativity. Sorry, just adding to that.
It really does. Yeah. I've been away from mainstream media. I remember like my wife and I used to have Good Morning America on in the morning. And then one day, I think we kind of got turned on to that, to questioning, well, if the pharmaceutical brands are running the ads, like who's controlling, it's like, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I think exactly. I think it's great to be, to be an independent thinker. And I find myself very moderate on all these things. And I just kind of look at I think the media wants you to think everyone is an extreme and there's a ton of people in the middle. And there's people that kind of like zigzag over, policies or idealisms. And I might be this side on this way and this side on that way. And I think that's healthy. And I think that makes me more an empathetic person. And I don't really look at anyone and go, why are you that way? I kind of understand, but I also think people are just like living in their echo chamber of, whatever. And I've seen very little political stuff on LinkedIn. And I think it creates the common ground of there are really far right and really far left people on that, but they're supporting each other's content. And that's kind of beautiful. And I don't think that could happen on Facebook or Instagram because it's so, toxic in some ways. And it's like you're on my team or you're not. And anyways, I think there's a little more, even entrepreneurs are careful because, everyone wants, it's a free market, right? And it's like if I'm trying to sell my product, people can choose to agree or disagree, and there's probably some consequences either way to not not talking about that or not. But yeah, I mean, for the vast majority, there's been thought-provoking conversation, there's been value that's been sent out, it's created opportunities for me, it's made me meet really cool people like yourself, and that
Appreciate that.
that makes me super grateful.
I love it, man. Everything's in gratitude. Just to add to that even too, two more shout outs, guys that I know, I'm pretty familiar with. I think you've become more familiar with, but Trevor Moawad,
Yep.
kind of the creator of neutral thinking and, talking about, he's done studies with Stanford and countless other research experts on how news really, I think it was something about if you take in just over 3 minutes of news, your day is like 30% more likely to be, started off with like, sorry, if you start in the morning with like 3 minutes or less of news, it's like 27 or 30%. I forget that you're increasing your likelihood of having kind of what would be considered a bad day. And so, news instinctually, Andrew, we're wired to be negative, right? Like if you go way back in, back in the whatever Stone Ages, right? So there's a noise in that bush. We're wired for survival, right? So it's, oh, that's something that's going to eat me. I got to get out of here, fight or flight. And so that's why the news is so divisive. It knows that about us instinctually, so it's gonna key in on that. I'm going through the channels last night. I put on CNN. And it's, I didn't put it on. I was flipping through, and I have this new mechanism where I see it. I look at the headlines quick. I'm like, this is crazy. I just remind myself next channel. So that Trevor Mowat shot up, but then also Gary Vaynerchuk back to LinkedIn and how LinkedIn is one of the only places you can still get, I should say, free organic engagement. Right. So like you don't need to have the premium, which I know I do because of specific reasons. But you don't need that. You can put a post out like yours. And the one thing, again, Mr. Humble over here, you didn't even talk about how you had a post go viral. So we're going to do that in a second, but I want to hear from you. So again, viral post, that's just crazy. I can't wait to hear more about that briefly. But I want to hear from you on two themes that have come out of my life that, again, just popped in my head because I can tell there's a sense of clarity here. Yeah. And we're also people that love critique because we're, as this book says, growth mindset type oriented folks versus the fixed mindset. I'm curious to hear from you. What does chasing clarity mean to you? Because I put you in that post on Friday. That's been the big thing for me. I just keep saying chasing clarity, chasing clarity. And if I need to give you more context, I will. On the flip side of that, I just came up with another concept that's called corralling critique. So it's chasing clarity, but also then corralling critique. And you'll notice that the C's there, it makes it easy for me to remember. I literally developed corralling critique yesterday. I'm curious to hear, starting with chasing clarity, what does that mean to you here right on the spot? Got non-scripted stuff here.
I love impromptu things. I think for me, when you say that, I think about, we have a finite amount of time on this earth. Like I only got so much time today. And it's like, where do I spend my time? And I'll tell you how I'm going to spend my day. We're doing this right now. I'm going to go be a sales leader for an hour. I got invited on another podcast at 10 a.m.
Let's go.
I'm going to be a sales guy. And then I'm taking my kids to the YMCA, and I've done this on Wednesday. My kids are homeschooled this year. I got a first and third grader. They do a gym class and an art class at the local YMCA. And I try to run 8 to 10 miles on a treadmill. It's 10 degrees here in Milwaukee. And I just start carving out that time. And I never would have done that. I never, ever would have done that because it would have felt like I was cheating and spend, 90 minutes or 2 hours away from my office. And now I'm like, I work at 5 a.m. I work at night. I work on weekends. It just become part of my reset. So like Wednesday from noon to 2, I take my kids and I take a neighbor kid and I go run on a treadmill for as long as I can for 90 minutes. And then, and I love that. And I'll go back and I got meetings and calls and, the day goes, but like, I will go to bed tonight going, this was an awesome day. That's what clarity is. It's like, are your days wasted in just going, I did a bunch of stuff I didn't want to? And once again, it's not always a money thing, but like finances play into this big time because I have people in my life, I'm not gonna say who, that are later in their career that are working jobs that they hate because they have to and they got a mortgage to pay. And I just want the freedom to do things like this because I love it. And I think this makes me a better sales leader, and I think it makes me a better person. But it's like what people don't realize is they just get caught, like they just get caught in a cycle. And well, this is what I do, and I have a job I don't really like, and I have to pay for things that I don't really care about. Like, the whole like I don't know if you know Dave Ramsey is. He always talks about like you're doing a job you don't like to pay for things to, there you go. Total
What
money. Man,
are the odds of you
that's
saying that?
crazy.
My dad, I'm sorry, dude. I apologize.
No,
My
it's
dad
good.
got me this book and I had no idea you were going to say that. And it's sitting there. So this is nuts. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, so we talked about the debt-free thing, but like, my wife and I live a debt-free lifestyle. We owe a little bit on our mortgage, but like we kind of float through life financially. And part of, I'm a high income guy, not to sound arrogant, but I run a 24-person sales team at a SaaS company. I've been there for going on 13 years, and private equity owned. And there's high pressure, high stakes, and there's literally like weekly accountability on my numbers. I report to the CEO every Friday morning about what we close, what we think we're going to close, and they hold me to that number. That's how they indicate whether I continue on. I probably had to fire, I don't know, 35 people over the last 8 years. I've had 2 bosses get fired. I've reported to the board of directors because there was no CEO, no head of sales, and it's an 800-person software company. I don't work for some like 10-person startup. So, anyways, I'm not saying that in a bragging. I'm giving context. And you could be paralyzed with fear and just scared or pressure with that, but man, I do this because I love it. I love what I do. I get to mentor people, and financially speaking, if they like pop me off tomorrow, that'd be fine. Like I would have time to go figure it out, and that's certainly a luxury. But everyone's like, well, it's good for you. You make a ton of money. But what I question everyone on is, why do you live in the house you live in? Why do you drive the cars you drive? Why do you wrap all this stuff around you? I could be living in twice as big of a house, but my goal is to have my house paid off at age 40. If I have my house paid off and I owe nothing to anyone, I can do really literally whatever I want to in life. And maybe that just means I just go on podcasts and go out and talk to people. And that would be sick too. You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about like the whole clarity thing, critiquing,
Corralling.
corralling critique, I'll talk about that next. But the whole like the finite amount of time that we have, that's just a reality. That's the one resource. You can make more money, you make money in different ways. Now I'm 36 years old and I have a ton of money investing, and it's growing in other ways. So I can go like, I'm not always trading time for money. I've been fortunate to do other things with it. But the critique thing, I did this MBA thing last night, and I got a lot of nice feedback and people sent me cool things. And I was like, can you please give me feedback of how to get better? And that's what I think about corralling critique. It's like, I've never really won it. I've never received an award, made a bunch of money, or had some big positive thing that I've learned anything like that feels good. But I think about like being let go from a job, which has happened. I think about having to fire people. I think about changing private equity owners. I think about having humbling moments. The 5K, like that's where you learn things, and that's the critique. It's like, okay, how do I get better from this? And if you think the mindset of like, either I go win the game or I lose the game and I learn something, then there's nothing to fear. Just go stick your neck out there and see what happens.
This is, I mean, you're a legend. And the fact that you said Dave Ramsey, like I had no idea who he was. And candidly, I put this out to the world before, just to reciprocate on candor. I'm a couple of years your junior, whatever, a few years your junior, and still on my journey of financial freedom. It's interesting. You mentioned earlier, like 30 to 35, like fancy cars, making money. Do I look back as an 80-year-old and say, man, I was a jerk.
Was it time well spent, really? Yeah. Like, was that a good use of 5 years?
Well, and the reason I bring that up, exactly that. And you said about, you got to forgive yourself, right? And you got to look forward, day of presence, which is why I asked you back to the chasing clarity thing you had mentioned, right? The past, depression, forward is anxiety. Let's be present. And so, dude, I've had an interesting start to the year. It's been in my content work, get on this high December 29th, go crush a marathon.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, it's a stressful start to the year, a lot of business things going on. I'm not managing my time maybe as well as I wanted. So I'm jumping around, but the clarity thing is something that I've gotten hyper focused on in 2 weeks. And you mentioned earlier, so many parallels, but I was really stressed. I was really stressed, and I got these 2 things on my wrist. I've been doing things strategically with changing out. I had an Apple Watch, no more. I got a Garmin, and not looking at the data as much. And it's interesting how, like you said, start today or start tomorrow, whatever, start right now. Where it was like, at the time I thought it was going to take me months to get out of the stress that I felt, but in about a week or two of just leaning on conversations with mentors and friends and researching online and content on YouTube, I've now gotten closer to clarity than I have probably in the last 15 months, which is my transformation window, just like you. So jumping around a lot, but I love your insights on the chasing clarity piece. That is so key. And the corralling critique piece is a foundation of growth mindset, right? And so then lastly, I was going down a rabbit hole, if you will, on this Dave Ramsey thing. And I'm candidly paying for some of the financial sins I made in my early 20s, where I was this hot shot, similar to you. I was in my early 20s. I was a startup making money, bought bought a car, yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
And I'm just grateful, right? Going back to gratitude, that it happened now versus another 10 years of putting myself in more debt and more stress and being kind of hand to mouth, singing for supper. So anyway, just to bookend that, appreciate your insights there. I wanted to, in maybe the last couple minutes, I know we mentioned your viral LinkedIn post, but we have talked a lot about LinkedIn. So maybe that's our pod 2.0. Maybe it's your podcast. If you start one, we can talk more about that, or we do another one in a month or two or whatever. So we'll hit that. But you, just for the audience, Andrew had a viral post go, was pretty sick. We'll unpack more about that. We'll leave the audience wanting, right, for more. What I'd love to hear from you in closing, though, is your definition of transformation, right? We talked about your weight. We talked about your running, these realizations, the weight thing, the alcohol, the running, the animalistic kind of like rawr type moment you had when you did run that first marathon. But transformation to me, just quickly, is like, it's every single day getting better than yesterday, and it's you versus you. Yep. And so a lot of people, you mentioned too, right? You ran 6 miles and it was like, holy crap, man, I can't imagine having to run 20 more. But it's that one foot in front of the other, incremental Kaizen type, Japanese mindset of just, 1% better every day is going to add up to big. It can be daunting in the moment, but if you just string together months, years, you're going to look back and be like, man, I can't believe that I've done this. And so for me, 50 pounds dropped, running marathons, starting my own business, having these types of conversations is a world of a difference just even 12 months ago. So again, anyway, in closing, love to hear your definition of transformation.
Yeah, you kind of took the words out of my mouth, but to me, it's like, I think I loved it. And your story is incredible too. And I mean, that's obviously why we bonded, but I just feel like the journey never ends, and is to your point, like you get a little better each day. And maybe 3 years ago, if you would have said, like, I was in this spot of, stopped drinking, I ran, whatever, like financially things have changed in the last 3 years, and I've gotten a lot of clarity around that. And, there's different aspects of my life, but I also feel like this is just the foundation for something really, really exciting. You know what I mean? And I think one of the things I want to say to you that we had on a phone call, I was like, how old are you? How old are you? 28 or 29 or something?
29, my brother.
Dude, I go, you're 29. I'm about to be 37. I go, if I would have figured this stuff out almost, let's say 7 years ago, almost 8, I'm like, think of what spot I would be in now. So it's like, and we also talked about the kind of the comparison bias. Like, don't compare your finances to me. That's not fair, right? Where are you going to be in 9 years, kind of a thing, So, that whole thing. And look, comparing regardless of age, of LinkedIn connections, and I mean, even the viral posting, we talk about that. But to me, it's just like a one hit wonder thing. I think there's some interesting aspects about that, but look, making a viral post doesn't mean I'm more beneficial. In fact, I'd say the content itself was kind of like I think I have a post that I think that is near and dear to my heart that got 32 likes, and I have a post that has 30,000 likes that I'm like, yeah, like it's cute and interesting, and I know why it connected, and we could talk about that. But at the end of the day, like none of that matters really. And I think that transformation is just a journey. And as someone
Mm,
that's like received awards and I've made a like our President's Club trip or made a bunch of money or achieved a net worth that I would have thought was like whoa 5 years ago. You get to the top of the mountain, the view's good, and then it's what's the next thing, and really what
where's the
you
next
learn.
mountaintop? You
Exactly.
know,
What you learn is the fun is in the journey, and just those little incremental pieces, like you getting a LinkedIn message from someone, you're like, whoa, they know who I am. Or, um, you know, us getting connected, or, like you're talking to different people about speaking on different platforms. I know I'm not ready to talk about it publicly, but I'm talking to someone to speak on a pretty big platform. And like, just that introduction and that first conversation might actually be more exciting than actually doing the thing, because you feel that incremental. Like by the time I might do this talk, it's been in the works for 6 months or maybe 9 months, the way they're talking about it. And there'll be like some law of diminishing return where it's like, all right, let's just do this thing and then it'll be out in the universe. But like the exciting thing was getting that first introduction. And so, I mean, in sales, we talk about celebrating the pipeline as opposed to the close one, because the pipeline generation is, I had a really good conversation, they might buy. And the more of those I do, they'll lead to deals, right? And
mhm.
this is just more about like cracking open those new doors and sparking something new that might be a fire down the road. And just putting myself out there, content wise. And the last thing I just want to say about content and transformation is like, you got to be vulnerable, you got to give a little bit of yourself. And I think for someone that has something to lose, and that's not an arrogant statement. I just think if I run a big sales team and work at a relatively big software company and people have opinions about me, I have something to lose to go talk about alcohol. I've talked about how does alcohol play in the business and the sales world. My company has a bar on site because we're in Milwaukee, and we're like, yeah, we host happy hours, and like it's almost taboo for me to talk anti-alcohol, which is crazy in its own right. But I'm like, I'm kind of to the point in my life where I just don't care. It's like I'm if they're gonna judge me or they're not. I have a LinkedIn post I wrote last night. I'll drop it today, but I wrote the only opinion you should care about is your own. And once I start caring more about someone else's opinion, then I'm screwed. If I only care about my own opinion, I'm gonna be fine. And that's to kind of close the loop. That's being proud of yourself. Are you living a life? Is today something you're proud of? I guarantee I'll go to bed tonight and go, that was a good day. I'm proud of what I did today. And I love to have more days like that. And do I feel that way at the end of the week? And do I feel that way at the end of the year and the end of the decade? And do I feel that way on my deathbed?
I love it, man. It's a perfect segue to conclude, but to also very quickly, first of all, a call to action to listeners, watchers is go get Andrew. Go get Andrew on LinkedIn. A must follow, must connect. And then the other thing, it's funny. I'm wearing an August McGregor shirt, and I wrote down engage with AM Andrew Metz. It's funny, but other places to engage that people can find you quickly as we finish up here? Where else can we get you?
Well, I'm new to Clubhouse. So do you know about Clubhouse? Are you on
Mhm.
it or no?
I've got a friend, shout out to Encore Golf, Steve Colton, who told me you got to get on. He's like, you'll
All right.
crush it with your
Okay.
podcast stuff. I'm not on it though.
I'll send you an invite.
All
It's
right.
by invite only, which is kind of
Interesting.
ridiculous, but I think some of that's the exclusivity. What's sick about Clubhouse, so like I've jumped on with my buddy and then people just start showing up, but it's good for someone who's a fast talker like me that can just kind of rattle off. It might be more R-rated, might be more F-bomb slipped on that, but to me, Clubhouse is just like audio chat. And the cool thing is I've connected with people on LinkedIn or people that I engage in their content on LinkedIn. Now I'm talking to them in person on Clubhouse, which is sick. So, Clubhouse is an audio kind of group chat thing where you can jump, you can go create your room. But like I was sitting on a stage, or I was in an audience where, Gary Vaynerchuk's talking, and then he's inviting people on stage to talk and stuff like that. So it's kind of, you get more accessibility. It's kind of like a faster flowing podcast, but it's interactive. So Clubhouse is sick. But you follow me on Clubhouse, Andrew Metz. Just got on there a couple weeks ago. My main platform's LinkedIn. And that's it. I've kind of moved away. I haven't been on Facebook in years. I haven't used Instagram in a few months, and I told my wife I think I'm better for it. And that's it. Like, we can all get distracted, and then I try to spend the majority of my time in reality with my children, and I try to put my phone away. I put my phone on airplane mode at 9 p.m. every night, and I spend time with my wife. And I try not to be on it all the time around my kids, because that's important too. And I wonder, as a guy that's 37, almost 37, I never a phone. I never a smartphone until I was 23 or 24. So I think a lot about that. Like, I didn't have a cell phone until I was 21. And, I don't know what all this stuff's doing to our brain or our kids' brains, but I try to like make eye contact. Like this morning I was playing my guitar for my kids, and I was explaining to them how a Tom Petty song's in the key of E and what that means. And, that's kind of cool. I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. Maybe they think I'm a dad, but maybe someday they'll go, man, Dad taught me that Tom Petty song on guitar. That's sweet.
Telling you, man, you're just full of knowledge, wisdom, insights, tips, tricks. I mean, this was loaded. I mean, I asked you about where to engage, and boom, you're into intentionality. No, but seriously, intentionality and mindfulness. And I can't stress enough of being mindful about phone and screen. And I mean, crap, man, there's a lot that goes into being, like you said, start being disciplined about your phone and everything. Yeah. Okay. I'm on it, and now I'm not. So, okay. So anyway, we got to be mindful of your time, Mr. Sales Guy here, but you got LinkedIn and Clubhouse. Find Andrew there. And then in closing, as always, deep gratitude, my brother, the Same first here. Of, I hope, many, not even hope, but with faith, many. This is incredible. And of course, I'd love to be on a show that you might come up with one day. I know you're still in progress with that, or still in planning with that, but this has been great. Again, so much talked about transformation, LinkedIn, really laced with authenticity and candor and vulnerability, and really so much more. So in closing, thank you again, brother. All the way out in Milwaukee, cold Milwaukee, just like here, it's like 10 degrees in Buffalo. It's crazy, but many thanks. And as always, I love to say thanks again to my partners over at VidWheel Creator Network. They've got a podcast kit in a bag, in a suitcase, and all the support that goes with it. It's incredible. So that's why, the high def, good look, good sound is for them. So thanks again. And thanks again for tuning into the Power of Osmosis video podcast, also available on all audio only platforms. So until next time, my brother, this is Johnny Osmosis down in the Oz Cave. Thanks again, Andrew. And make sure you go. I'm sure you'll be crushing it today.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.